Turbulence is extremely common in air travel and occurs on most flights to a certain degree. At times, they can result in one or more serious injuries, but is rarely fatal. Now, in December 2022, at least 36 people were wounded after severe turbulence hit a Hawaiian Airlines flight up to 30 minutes before landing. Now, that plane was traveling from Phoenix to Honolulu. 3 months later, a U.S. passenger died from violent movements on a private business flight she was on. The jet was headed to Virginia from New Hampshire, but was diverted to Connecticut. Authorities say she died from the pull of gravity. And last August, some 11 people were hospitalized after a Delta flight encountered rough air on its descent into Atlanta, and more than 160 people were on board. Well, the injuries from such incidents reportedly include lacerations, broken bones, head wounds, and even a loss of consciousness. These happen mostly to passengers who aren't wearing seatbelts. Still, flight attendants remain the most at risk. Experts say they're 24 more times likely to be seriously hurt, as they have to be on their feet for longer periods of time. Well, many of the bumpiest routes in the world are in East Asia. According to industry sources, turbly.com, often the turbulence is caused by mountains or proximity to the sea, or a propensity for an area to have high winds or harsh winter windstorms. In China, the routes to watch out for include Lanzhou Zhongchuan International Airport to Chengdu Shuangliu International Airport, Lanzhou Zhongchuan or LHW to Xi'an Xianyang International Airport, Xi'an Xianyang or XIY to Chengdu Shuangliu or CTU, and to Chongqing Jiangbei International Airport. Over to Japan. The bumpiest flights are from Chubu Center Air International Airport in Aichi Prefecture to Sendai Airport, and from Kansai International Airport in Osaka to Sendai. Another source, Alternative Airlines, cites the Seoul to Dallas route as also being bumpy because it flies directly over Japan with high levels of mountain and ocean-induced turbulence. Well, let's get more now. We're speaking with John Strickland. He is the director of JLS Consulting. He's joining us from London with more. Mr. Strickland, is air turbulence, not only air turbulence, but its nature and frequency, is it getting worse, or is that just my imagination?
There isn't really any great body of statistics to suggest that is the case in a way that really gives us any meaning. Of course, the volume of air travel has grown over the years. And that means that airspace in many parts of the world is more congested, which perhaps forces aircraft to fly in maybe less optimal routings on occasion when it comes to weather. There is discussion and analysis going on in the scientific community about whether there are more extreme weather conditions affecting aviation as a function of climate change. And there has been some work done by the University of Reading here in the UK suggesting, for example, on transatlantic routes there has been an increase. But the kind of incident we saw yesterday on the SQ321 from London Heathrow to Singapore is fortunately pretty rare, and we should put this in the context of the millions of flights, of course, that are operating annually.
Now, turbulence can be very expensive for airlines, can't it? Some analysts are estimating that it could cost up to $200 million annually. That's in the US alone. What elements of turbulence makes it so costly?
Well, it's interesting. I haven't actually heard that figure quoted before. But of course, turbulence is a factor which can lead to operational disruption. I mean, if turbulence is avoided, that may on some occasion involve longer flight routings for the safety of passengers and crew. And of course, that means extra fuel burned. And of course, ultimately, if an aircraft is damaged, as has been the case with this one yesterday, then there is disruption caused from an aircraft not being available to fly. And of course, the cost of repairing damage. And indeed, when customers are affected, there could be compensation claims as well. But I'm not quite sure how exactly that figure would be derived, but certainly there are costs.
Would some of the costs also emerge from airlines having to perhaps increase their checks on whether their flights are flight worthy?
Not directly, because as I mentioned, the incidents of severe turbulence are rare.
Yeah.
Aircraft are structurally designed to withstand loads on the key parts of the structure much more intense than they are likely to experience in normal operation. I mean, a number of viewers may have experienced flights where you see the wings flexing, maybe the engines on the wing wobbling. That's all built-in flexibility to make the structure supple when it's facing situations such as turbulence. It's not actually a problem. It's a positive reason why that is the case. But structural checks are needed. This aircraft will be checked over to see if there has been damage beyond the cabin fittings to key parts of a structure. But as I said, most of the time, aircraft can fly normally, and little or no rectification is required when there's been an encounter with maybe a lesser level turbulence than the one experienced by this flight.
Well, that's really good to know that when we see that flex in the wing, that's actually a good sign that the body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Are there, very quickly, different airline models that are more robust than others? And do you find that this might actually impact how airlines might acquire their models going forward?
No, I don't think so. I mean, all manufacturers have to observe safety standards that are set by regulators when aircraft are certificated to come into service, whether they are built by Airbus, Boeing, Embraer, or any other manufacturer, that they have to abide by those standards, because licensing for commercial operation is pretty well the same standard the world over. There can be local requirements. For example, the regulatory authorities in Singapore would have their own standards, but so too would the countries and manufacturers such as the US and Europe as well. So I think that is the key strength of the industry, that there is always a preeminent focus on safety. And fortunately, a lot of experience has been built up in many decades about structural integrity and the way aircraft are assembled, and making allowance, as I suggested, for different events such as turbulence, including very strenuous tests on aircraft before they actually get into service. For example, new planes on the pre-production line, they go through a test where they bend the wings right the way up, until literally they snap off. There's many increases in angle that the aircraft would actually experience in normal life.
Well, we appreciate that insight. Very, very critical for everyone to know, really. Thank you so much, John Strickland. He is the director of JLS Consulting.